All right, Sally Kohn. Nice to have you here today on Wise About Life. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a huge pleasure. I wish we could be in person, so I can officially say that I'm welcoming you here to the Casa Bella Vista in the Algarve in Portugal.
I wish I were there too. Trust
I
me.
will pull
Trust
you
me.
in.
Trust me. I'll be right over.
Sounds like you could. It looks like you could use a little bit of stress relief.
No, no, but I mean, we're talking in the middle of hot, humid summer here near Philadelphia. So if you've got a little breeze and maybe some nice wine, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
You come down. Excellent.
Trust
Well,
me.
yeah, it's hot here as well. There's a
Okay.
fan going, and there's always lovely wine down here in Portugal. Um, hey, listen, Wise About Life. I'm really enjoying, loving doing this series. I am talking with people that I'm meeting along the road. I kind of was talking to somebody recently, and they said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I feel kind of like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz because I just follow the yellow brick road, right? I'm on my little path, and I'm always researching, and I'm curious about this, and I'm curious about that, and you came onto my path."
I love that.
Yeah, and I am very grateful because I randomly contacted you out of the blue, and you graciously spoke with me in the first instance, and here we are today to kind of dive in a little bit about into the work that you and I both share a passion for. Um, but I will just contextualize it for you because I don't know if I did when we first had our conversation. But I was putting together a 10-part educational series for school administrators.
Hmm.
And a key dimension of this was to really help them understand like how to deal with toxic emotions, how to deal with toxic school environments, time pressure, stress, bullying, all, the things that go on in staff rooms are sometimes worse than the things that go on the playground with the kids, right? Like could be pretty bad behavior. And as I was on this path of exploration, I came across your TED Talk video, which touched upon your work around the opposite of hate. And it just struck such a tremendous chord. And for starters, I just want to thank you for bringing into the public domain a conversation about how we all have the capacity to not be nice people, you know?
You're welcome. I'm sure there's some people watching or listening who are like, thanks, Sally. Yeah,
Thanks for ruining our world.
it's so sorry. Got to hold up a mirror. Here we
Gotta
are.
hold up the mirror. It's really important. Now, listen, you come into this world as a journalist, as an author. You published The Opposite of Hate, which I think the subtext is a field guide to repairing our humanity. That was written over 6 years ago,
Ooh,
seven
was
years
it?
ago now.
My hair was
2000,
a different color. That's for sure. My hair was a different color. Yes.
2018, right?
Yes, 2018.
It was then, this is now. How do you feel about repairing our humanity in the last 7 years, 8 years?
You know, one of the things, right? So my background actually is a community organizer. I spent 16 years as a community organizer, trying to help folks mostly in the United States who wanted to make a difference in their communities, help them figure out how to do it and be more effective. So I would travel around the country working with groups that wanted to fix the criminal justice system or reform immigration or get healthcare reform passed or whatever it was. And I ended up sort of through a very circuitous path falling into the media because someone saw me speaking once and blah 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 and said, would you come do this? And, blah, 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 and then one thing led to another. And I mean, this is a very like, I know one thing doesn't always lead to another in this way, but then lo and behold, I find myself as a lefty lesbian liberal on Fox News. And that experience was really, for someone who had spent
Wait,
their whole
wait,
life.
wait, wait, wait,
Hey, I
wait,
know.
wait, wait,
Yeah.
wait. Before you even say another word, I want to know, and somebody else is going to want to know, like, with your background, as strong and strident as it sounds as though it was and probably still is, How did you fall into Fox News?
Well, right. So, I mean, I first fell into doing media, right? I fell
Hmm.
into being a talking head, a commentator on cable news in the United States. When one does that, one does what all the baby, when you're kind of coming up in that universe, you do what baby pundits do, which is you go on the different networks and shows and, argue about politics and issues and so forth. And I mean, obviously, before I even considered going on Fox News, being a good organizer, I called on my friends who were the people organizing the campaigns to try to destroy Fox News and said, like, you guys sure you're okay? Like, how do you feel about this? And they loved it. They wanted me to do it, etc. So I did do it. And there really wasn't at the time, especially this is 2009 or so, 2010, there weren't really any other me's in that space. And what, again, as someone who's very, I would say, I guess, ideologically strident, although in fairness, let's put a pin in that one because no one is as ideologically strident as they think they are, or at least few people
Right.
are actually met, right? We're often
Hmm.
more publicly strident than we are privately, but that being
Hmm.
said, certainly on one side of the political ledger, right? And frankly so. Plus, identity-wise, right? Like here I am, the person that in a lot of ways these anchors and talking heads and so forth are attacking. And so the experience of kind of stepping into that space when, I mean, right, I've been an organizer, so a lot of my work was oriented around the opposition, but I never actually spent time with them, if that makes any sense. Like I had this kind of fictional, I mean, to your A Wizard of Oz thing, I had this idea of the evil people behind the curtain, but I'd never gone behind the curtain. And when you meet people who you hate, it's just wild. It's a wild experience. At least for me, cognitively and emotionally, it was really, really wild to experience these people as humans, as multidimensional, flawed, imperfect, sometimes kind, sometimes raw, like complex. Get this, spoiler alert, as complex as me.
Right.
And that experience, right? And so to kind of step in and be like, oh, I these people all hate me and I'm like in the lion's den and blah blah blah, and realize like, okay, they're not all caricatures. They don't all hate me, but
Hmm.
holy crap, I hate them. Like I'm
Hmm.
also part of this dynamic that I
Right.
have something I contribute. And I think, fast forward, so many of us, whatever the issue, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, honestly, whether it's like an interpersonal fight or when we get to the bigger issues of intractable conflicts or obviously politics in the United States, et cetera, we assume I'm right, they're wrong. We're right, they're wrong, right? You have a lot of us, them dynamics. We're right, they're
Hmm.
wrong. I'm right, they're wrong. And my positions are factual and clear and straightforward, and theirs are wrong and misinformed, right? We have this very, um, you know, in psychology, you call it a fundamental attribution error, but it's this thing we all do. And the funny thing is look, like when you actually get to, and I'm not saying, by the way, I'll be the first person to be like, I am more right. My side is more right. So hooray for us. And it doesn't mean we're not often wrong,
Right.
right? You could be like, there's gradations within here. And more
Hmm.
fundamentally, right?
Hmm.
Like really profoundly fundamentally, if my goal is to change people's hearts and minds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like think about it this way. We've got a country right now that's just deeply, not to make it too political, but we've got a country that's deeply divided. Let's
Yeah.
call it 50-50, although it's not exactly because there's just giant groups of people who are checked out, but let's call it 50-50. If you want to win, right, by getting to 60, 70, 80%, something like that, you got two strategies. One is to just get the other side to stop participating, as in to like check out or die. And that actually, let's be honest, has been like a theory on my side for a long time of like, well, they'll just die off and whatever. By the way, it's not happening. Like younger people are gravitating there too. So that's not working. So if you actually want to win, you got to convince people to change sides, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Or maybe even convince them is a more elegant way of saying it that they've actually always been on your side to begin with. They just didn't realize it. Whatever it is, yelling at them, hating them, attacking them, smearing them, otherizing them ain't gonna do it. And by the way,
Yeah.
it ain't gonna solve any problems we've ever had, ever.
Yeah.
Right? And also,
Yeah.
even it doesn't even make us feel better. It just makes you feel crappy. So that's in effect the kind of origin of why. And I'm not saying it's easy.
Hmm.
Not saying it always feels like, but it is, that's I think the work.
Yeah. Let's sit with a little bit, let's sit for a little bit on that one. So there in your books you talked about ABC, right? Because like you're saying, like if somebody is nobody's gonna listen if they think that you're hating on them, right? And with ABC, so what is ABC? AB, the A was affirm, the B
Is
was
So let's contextualize it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, no, no. So that's right. I mean, first of all, none of us, like, if you think about when something you've changed your mind on, and that's the
Hmm.
other thing, by the way, is people like, oh, they're never going to change. Like, bull pucky. All of us have changed, right? I'm a better person, I hope, than I was 20 years ago, right? Like, somebody had to talk to me about my Islamophobia and my transphobia and my class issues and the fact that I would be a little too hot to anger and right, like
Mm,
I
mm,
changed. What makes
mm,
us? Why are we so arrogant to think we can change, but other people can't?
mm,
That's just that's just cruel and elitist and
mm,
self-centered and
mm,
wrong. So
mm.
number one, you have to actually believe that other people can change and like
Right.
give them the grace, right?
Yeah.
Also, by the way, too many of us like we forget that, and we know this from research that like most of us, right? Whether it's because we're, a political side we're on or we're bullies or whatever it is, like most of us are the products of our environment. Again,
Yeah.
us good people, we like to think that I made all these choices and formed, I'm so but like I'm also the product of my environment, the parents who raised me, the community I grew up in, the schooling I went to, etc. So to be like, oh, I'm so much more superior because I think these things and feel this way is also right.
Hubris.
So hubris, exactly. So then it's like, okay, when the rubber hits the road, when I'm actually having a conversation, right? Again, whether it's on a big stage or one-on-one or whatever, or even honestly in a relationship, when you're confronted with someone who disagrees with you, first of all, like let's talk about what happens neurocognitively, right? When we either are in a disagreement or we're watching a disagreement, even if we're just a bystander. This is the persuasion part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that needs to be engaged
Mm.
to be changed. When we talk about changing mind, right here.
Yep.
But when there's an argument, right? If I argue with you, or you even watching me argue with someone else, that part of the brain shuts down, and this part of the brain, the limbic system, the animal brain, the fight or flight brain turns on. Fight or flight. Guess what? If I'm trying to persuade you, you're not gonna pick
Not
my
gonna
side.
happen.
You're
Mm-mm.
fighting or flighting to your own side that you're already on. So that's then and then persuasion stops. So it
Yeah.
has to be conversational. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two is the important thing to remember is that feelings are not facts. This is often said in like political circles, but it's said incorrectly. What I mean by that is feelings are valid just because they're felt.
Hmm.
So, like, if you feel scared, you're scared. I
Right.
can't tell you don't be scared. I can try to talk to you about the reasons you're scared, but you're scared,
Mm.
right? So the example here from I draw on from lots and lots of couples counseling is if my partner says her feelings are hurt, I can't say no, they're not. Like
Right.
they're hurt. That's just the reality. And I have to accept that reality. It doesn't mean I have to agree with that. I'll be like, yes, your feelings should be hurt. No,
Hmm.
the A is affirm. Affirm is find the feelings you can validate. I hear that you're scared. I hear that you're hurt. I hear that you're worried. I hear that, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Most people are just afraid of change,
Hmm.
right? Or scarcity, or they're afraid that X is going to mean Y for them and that's going to be bad. Like, right? Mostly it's fear. Most political views are driven by fear.
Fundamentally, no, I think, in the work that I do around diversity, I think what underpins a resistance to diversity is a fear of change or fear of
Right.
difference.
And that doesn't make, again, we could wish that people don't feel that way. Great.
Mm-mm.
That doesn't
Hmm.
change that they do. And if
Yeah.
we aren't dealing with people's feelings, and this is an old community organizing adage, you meet people where they're at. Doesn't mean you
Yeah.
have to leave them there, but you got to meet people where they're at. Otherwise, if I tell you your feelings are wrong, what I'm really saying is you're wrong. The
Hmm.
whole way you see the world is wrong. You're wrong. You're bad. Right? And nobody wants to be told that. Just
Yeah.
like my wife doesn't want to be told your feelings shouldn't be hurt, right? So
Yeah.
that's it. I hear you. I get it. I see you and I mean it. I mean it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see you as a person and your feelings are valid. Doesn't mean
Right.
I agree.
Right.
Period. That's it. So I do that. A. B. Too many of us, we think the B is but. But. Like, honey, I know your feelings are hurt, but. But means I didn't actually just mean that thing I just said. I was just
Just
BSing
wipe that away.
to what I want to say, right? So we don't say but.
Yeah.
We don't say however, which is a fancy but. B is a bridge. So the A, B, C, B is a bridge. Bridge is and. Replace your
Mm-hmm.
butts with ands, by the way. It's one of the best communication skills I teach leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just no more butts, only
Mm-hmm.
ands.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a that's why, the good news is, look, a gentle look, not a look, but a gentle look, actually, a gentle actually, right? A bridge.
Yeah.
And it's short and it's sweet. And honestly, the A and the B part, you do those pretty quickly. If you spend too much time on them, you seem kind of desperate and like you don't mean it. So like, yeah, I hear you're upset. And the C is the convince part, the thing you've been dying to say, but now you've kind of said it in a way that people can emotionally hear you. What
Right.
you're ostensibly doing, if we unpack it, is you're saying you're allowed to feel how you're feeling. I want to give you a different conclusion to draw from those feelings. So, for instance, you're allowed to feel worried you're going to lose your job. I want to talk to you about the reasons you're worried are because of like tax cuts going to billionaires as opposed to immigrants, right? But I'm letting you feel what you feel because if I don't, you why would you listen to me?
Right.
I'm denying your whole reality and worldview.
And it's not just the reality in the worldview, it's the dehumanization that takes place when you shut people down and you don't let them have their own experience of life as they see it from their own worldview.
And there's a condescension in that.
Mm.
I know, but think about it. Think about it. I know better about your life than you do,
Right, right, right. Not
right?
not a good look. It's not a good look.
I mean, no. And
Mhm.
honestly, this is an interesting one. This even gets to like when we talk about young people too. It's like, I mean, I can say this till I'm blue in the face to my 16-year-old that I think I know more about, but it is her life,
Right.
right? And how denying of her own autonomy and independence if I suggest I know better than her, right? Or I know better than this kid who's feeling this in school or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, letting people feel their feelings and being comfortable with that. And like I think a lot of us, why it's hard is that we feel like it's a threat,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? It actually makes you rethink your own.
Right.
It's so much easier to just be like, no, you're wrong.
Right.
It's a different thing entirely to sit with another human being who is an equal
Mm-hmm.
human being who you
Mm-hmm.
value and respect as an equal human being,
Yeah.
and recognize that their life experience and their valid cognition and wisdom could have led them to a different path than you. And what it does at like a much deeper level is say, oh man, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's actually where
Right.
change really can happen is when you're really realizing that in fact your own views and experience could be
Yeah.
more porous than you think.
More porous. And then, so when I was reading about the ABC and with the C landing in convinced, then I thought a lot about the work that I've done and the resistance that comes in. And I'll go back to a few months ago. I said, oh, one of the barriers to adopting a different perspective than what one might already have is that there's this sense of somebody's trying to convert me,
Mhm.
right? And so when I saw the word convince, I immediately attached the word convert to it, which then, you get this sort of pushback. I don't want to listen to you. And that's also where the power play comes back in. Like if you're so sensitive to the power dynamics that are there, and if there's a zero-sum game where somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, and I'm going to give my power over to you because actually I agree with you, but I don't know what you're going to do with me agreeing with you, then I have a fear that comes into play.
I think that the difference between a conversation where you want something from someone and you want something for someone
Hmm.
is pretty pronounced,
Hmm. Where does yours come
right?
in? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think that if I want you to change, I want something from you,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, and if we're like really getting at a metaphysical level here, like then I'm the locus of desire, right? What I want is what matters most.
Mm-hmm.
If I want something for you, there's still a little condescension there, but we've moved in a better direction. It's a little bit of, I think I know what's best for you, but at least I'm thinking about you, right? Now,
Right.
the next level is, right, something entirely different and transformative, right? Which
Hmm.
is actually like, what do you want?
Right.
It really has nothing to do about me. I'm just a spark for a conversation and interrogation. I'm asking questions. I'm curious about you,
Yeah.
why you believe what you believe, and why you came to that, and what you actually want, and what's beneath that. Because I
Hmm.
guess I like to think, and this may be naive, I don't know, but whatever. I mean, look, there's a universe of people who are truly deeply wedded to their hate, or whatever it is, right? I'm just
Hmm.
here, we're talking about hate. So there's a universe of people who are truly deeply wedded to their hate. I will say, however, that even when we look at the research on hate groups, on like, and I'm not here being political, we could agree, groups that are without a doubt like violently committed to carrying out acts, of murder and violence in service of otherizing certain groups of people. Like, it's not, we would agree, hate groups. When we look at the research on people and why they join those groups, by and large, overwhelmingly, they did not join those groups because they shared those ideologies to begin with. Maybe they had a little bit here and there, right? And again, we can go further back of like, you know, that's my whole point. We all kind of have a little bit here and there, and right, we grew up in this world that is swimming with hate and otherizing.
Mm.
So they had a little bit, maybe they had a little bit more than the average bear, okay. But the
Okay, Yogi.
predominant reason they joined these organizations is because they were looking for belonging.
Right. Right.
And then the term the researchers use is that they slide into the ideology, right?
Hmm.
And terrorists know this in terrorist recruiting, right? They actually don't recruit around the ideology of whatever the terrorist organization is. They recruit around purpose and belonging, wanting their
And
life to mean something or whatever it is, right? So
yeah.
again, and I'm not excusing obviously any of that, but the point is, right? Like it's just not so cut and dry as we want it to be. And if you look at
Hmm.
that, I also think there's some hope in that,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That we're actually not all, and that includes, by the way, us, right?
Hmm.
As fully formed as we think we are.
Right. And that goes back to that dichotomy between do I want something from you? Do I want something for you? Or do I want something even bigger than that that has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with you? That's that transformative piece. And when we're actually holding one another for, and I'm understanding human development and growth. When I
Mm,
hear you say that, you came as a community organizer, and you were very much committed to social justice. You've written this book called The Opposite of Hate to humanize us even more and more. It's really to get to a point where we can all be human together.
mm, mhm, mhm,
And there's that positive psychology that's behind it. So with that said, as you think about like what is the sweeter future, the book that you
mhm,
wrote, I mean, I did the same thing. I wrote a book that was now like it was published in 2017. We're now in 2025. I'm dating this video. um, but one, why did you write the book at that point in time? And
mm.
two, how do you feel at this point in time, having written the book?
Great question. Um, I wrote the book because I felt like there was a pattern, and I suppose I still do. It's maybe gotten modestly better, where the people, again, on my sort of side of the ledger, right? The righteous. I mean, I guess everybody thinks they're righteous, right? But
Everyone's the chosen,
the
Sally.
progressives, the progressives, the center left, the liberals, whatever it was, kind of ideologically and identity wise, right? Whatever. I felt like there was a certain, I don't want to use an inflammatory word here to use would be intolerance.
Mm,
Maybe less inflammatory would be kind of self-righteousness, right?
mm,
That the them were the problem,
mm,
and we were not.
mm,
And, obviously I wrote it at a very politically divided time in our country. It's only become even more so. So that sort of holds, but this idea that, well, if only they would change. And here's the thing. A, who the hell do you think's gonna change them? Right? Like
right.
If only they would change as though that's some project they have to do all on their own,
Mm, mm,
without instigation, help, support, love, no, whatever. Okay, so there's that. But also, like, the world that created these dynamics, right? Like, look, I can't, for example, separate out, um, the fact that we have ongoing racial discrimination in our country from the reality of, hundreds of years of slavery and the legacy of Jim Crow and failed Reconstruction and blah, blah, right? Like, it's not like that just emerged on its own. It's contextualized. And similarly, the fact that we still have it. Like, look, you look at uh, you know, discrimination by police in major American cities, right? Those cities are run by Democrats,
mm,
right?
mm,
So it's not
mm,
like it's just the them, right? So it's
mm.
so much more complicated and nuanced. And there's this way in which
Yeah.
when we just make it about them, whatever the thing is, whatever the problem is, if I just make it about my wife and not me, right? Like I'm abdicating
Yeah.
my own responsibility for the problem and my
Uh,
own role in the solution. And
yeah.
that to me doesn't feel constructive, especially when we're talking about like intractable
Yeah.
political, ideological, partisan human conflict.
Hmm. Hmm. When I had a 5 year stint when I was living back in the States. I left the States when I was 21, and I think I moved back when I was 47, something like that. So I was away for a long time. And I went and I lived in a particular state that prides itself on being incredibly progressive and liberal. After 1 or 2 or 3 years, it was revealed that it was only partly the case because there was a whole other historical contingent that wasn't that way, that didn't get on well with that thing. But here's the thing. I came across, and I don't know if you ever have as well, but have you come across this concept of liberal bigotry in your work, and particularly in your work over at Fox News?
Sure, but how are you, I mean, generally speaking, yeah, how are you referencing it, or in what context do you mean?
Well, I think it is also touching on the mirror, right?
Yeah.
It's
I, I don't like to put labels on things, right? Just like I don't, right? It's sort of like there are other kind of popularized versions of that concept that I just think they're kind of what they're trying to do in a way is the opposite of what I want nuance.
mm-hmm.
What they're just trying to do is like say, no, no, right? Like you're saying it's us, we're saying it's you. Like it's no, it's how about it's all of us in
Yeah.
varying degrees. And listen, similarly, I know people who are extremely, open-minded, let's say. I don't want
Hmm.
to use a directional, but like open-minded in one regard and closed-minded in another. Like it's not, people are complicated, right?
Yeah. And the
Donald Trump is
communication.
attacking LGBTQ people with policy and he attended several gay weddings. Like people are complicated. It's not that straightforward. And I'm not excusing his behavior or anything, but I'm just saying like it's not that simple.
Right.
And no one is that simple.
Right.
And again, when you actually talk to people one-on-one and privately, this is the thing. And I'll say this is even true with like a Fox News, right? You get
Mhm.
people off the air, even some of the most well-known people who you would accuse of like very, very hard line views, you get them off the air. They're just more nuanced. So part of the problem is our society doesn't encourage nuance, right? Like
Mhm.
our soundbite media and our social media and all of that is like driving us towards
Mm.
simplicity and driving us away from each other.
Mm.
We need to be doing the opposite. But again, there's a little bit of like uh, 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 I guess I want us to all have a little bit more scrutiny for ourselves,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
What did I do that allowed X, whatever X is?
Right.
What did I do that allowed this to happen? And what's my part in solving it?
Yep.
And not that that lets other people off the hook,
Right.
right? But it puts your skin in the game. You know what I mean? It puts you into the arena.
Squarely, right? I
Right? We're
mean,
not just the spectators. That's the thing I think I'm getting at is like
yeah.
The liberals, the self-righteous progressives, we're not the friggin' spectators.
Hmm.
Who, and by spectators, I don't mean, oh, I'm not a spectator. I'm screaming from the stands. Like, also not counting, also not helping.
Right.
Right? Like, how did you create this messed up thing that's playing out on
Right.
the ground? And what are you gonna do when you roll up your sleeves and get down in there? Clean
So
it
that
up.
that shared responsibility, let's think in terms of like, okay, everyone has the capacity to be bigoted because that just means stuck in your way of seeing the world. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you might be on. If you are rigid in your thinking, then you fall into being bigoted, end of. And that's something, there's a nuance that's there. And one of the things I love about the work in diversity is that it is about complexity, it is about variation, it is about things that are completely not black and white, and it's not the binary.
Mhm.
And that's really hard to unravel for many people. I think that's then where the art of diplomacy comes into play. How has that played out for you in terms of particularly, well, you've got it, you have to be diplomatic in all circles, right? Whether you're in Fox News or whether you're, in your camp of progressive people and with the identities that you connect to. So what are those
You know,
skills of diplomacy that really we can rest well with?
most of my work now is like training and coaching and supporting leaders of whether it's corporations or nonprofits or political leaders or candidates or what have you. And one of the things I've noticed in doing that, right, I mostly help them with their speeches or media training or ghostwriting or whatever. Um, but sometimes it comes into this, right? It comes into like, how do you handle hard questions, conflict resolution, right? Like, how do you, sort of carry yourself as a leader on a public stage while also not being infallible, right? And what I've noticed is the greatest leaders are willing to, first of all, they're willing to admit when they make a mistake,
Right.
right?
Say, I don't
Willing to
know.
make when they make a
Hmm.
mistake, right? They're
Hmm.
willing to say, I don't know. They're willing to be, the term vulnerable is so overused,
Right.
right? Like I'm not, I don't, what does that even mean anymore? It's become so hollow. But right, they're willing to expose themselves to the possibility of being wrong
Yeah.
in order to inspire, convince, and motivate others.
Hmm.
And so I guess I think that, if we could all take a little bit more of that, right? If we could become leaders in our world, whatever our world is, right? Again, in your family, right?
Hmm.
I'm gonna take responsibility for this dynamic. I'm not gonna be passively outside of it, angry, resentful, judging, whatever. I'm gonna take responsibility for them. What does responsibility mean? If you're taking responsibility for a whole dynamic, that includes your part. And whether it's in a school setting or an office dynamic or whatever it is. It's, too many of us are like spectators,
Hmm.
right? We're sitting in the stands, judgingly whispering to our friends or texting or, numbing ourselves or complaining or whatever, as opposed to like getting into the arena and then actually trying to be a leader in that space, right? Like a peacemaker, right? Or conflict resolver, right? Like, let's come up with a solution that works for everyone, whatever it is. But it means, right? It means you're in it. You're not
Hmm.
above it. You're
Hmm.
not better than. You're not out of it. You're
A part of
among it,
it.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm an action researcher, and action researcher is all about not being able to separate self from whatever the process is that we are. Either you're not a witness, you can't be
Right.
a bystander. This is you.
Yeah.
This is
Correct.
you. Yeah.
Correct.
And one of the things I really loved when we first spoke is just that your sense of humor was so apparent. And there's a lot of research as well on the connection between being a really great diplomat and using humor for diplomacy.
Um, yeah, humor's a funny one, right? Like it's I mean, first of all, it's very hard to be angry. I've found personally it's very hard to be angry and funny, right? So I
Okay.
use humor in part to disarm my own anger,
Mm, mm, mm,
right?
mm. Mm.
You
Wait,
know,
that's that's self-healing.
oh God, I don't know. No, you make me sound like a millennial. I'm 38. I don't believe in healing. Jeez.
You're not.
Oh,
Oh,
it's a
well,
coping
dude.
mechanism. Let's call it a coping mechanism. Gen
What?
Xers, we believe in coping mechanisms. We don't heal anything. Hang on. I mean, partly like, right. So if my teenager's annoying me or something, right? I'm so, and our kids push our buttons like nothing else. And I'm so quick to want to yell, lecture, argue, blah, 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 blah. If I can remember to step out into humor, it's better, it's more effective for her, right?
Mm,
It gets her to kind of, it doesn't get her hackles up, right? It gets her to look at the
mm,
situation with fresh eyes and loosen and lighten and all of that and lets her shoulders drop. But also, it's better for
mm,
me,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
Because I'm like laughing it off. I'm not like, oh my God, treating each conversation like it's a death match, right? It's like,
mm,
this is part of life and this is funny and this is just, whatever. So it's the
mhm.
same thing. It's, look, when you're talking about obviously like life and death issues, big moral quandaries, whatever, humor is a tough one there. So I don't want to overstate its utility, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
But it's there.
Yeah, but
Even
it can be
in,
helpful if to those who have it, and you're very kind to say I have it. And even if you aren't like the funniest person on the earth, just the ability to try or to, it can be really helpful.
and that's also meeting people where they are as well, right? Like if you can tap into a state of being or that complexity, right? Or the absurdities that are and come
Shift
on,
things.
is
Yeah,
life not just absurd?
it is sometimes, but sometimes it's so, it's absurd in the heartbreaking way.
Mm, mm. What about the sweeter future then? What does that sound like, smell like for you?
Man, I wish I knew. It's really tough for me. You ask that question right now, and it's tough, right?
Why why
We're,
is that?
we're talking July, in the middle of July of 2025. It's a
Mm, mm,
tough time for the world. I think a sweeter future. Well, look, I mean, a sweeter future is when there's more economic, racial, gender equality between all, and between the North and the South and the worldwide, right? The global North, global South.
understood.
When there's more shared investment in health and healing and well-being, then violence, extraction, and exploitation. I don't know, I mean, all those things sound really good. And
Well, first we had Millennium Development
yeah,
Goals,
sustainable development
and
goals.
then they turned into
Yeah.
sustainable because we didn't hit them in the last millennia.
I,
So now we had to rebrand them. And I'm just wondering, is achieving those goals what's going to make the future sweeter? Or is there something else that
I don't know.
actually
I think interpersonally, along the lines of what we've been talking about, there's a point at which we hopefully can all drop our armor. And I say that, look, it's a privileged thing to say, whatever. And obviously, there are life and death situations in which people need to be protected right now.
Mm,
And I guess at the moment I am really focused on the people I feel are, you know, not the ones perpetrating the harms, right? But the people whose support, tacit or explicit support, is allowing those harms to be perpetrated.
mm,
And I I try both conceptually and in real terms in conversations and so forth to get in my work to get curious about why,
mm,
rather than to again write those people off as permanently supporting X, Y, and Z or believing LP or Q. Why is their fear able to be used and turned in the way it is, and what else could possibly be? I don't know. I think somewhere
mm,
in there I
mm,
could get more
mm.
specific about, whatever,
Yeah.
housing, but like, and
But those are like
whatever,
macro
but like
issues, right?
specifically, it's
Yeah.
like, could we get to a softer place as human beings where we are less sure of our own views and more committed to the humanity of others?
Beautiful. That's what a sweeter future looks like.
There we go.
And how do we make that in the present, right?
I don't
Because,
know. Yeah, but let's
but
let
you're
this too
doing it.
hard. Listen, you got the answer. Let's not
I
settle for it. Come on, that was
Shut
good.
up, stop talking.
I'm just kidding.
No, but in seriously, like, because there's like this whole macro thing that everybody, we can all be so overwhelmed, right? When you think about, when I'm reading your book and, that was 2018. Here we are in 2025. And, OMG, how does this happen? Whatever, we're here, right? And the overwhelm can be extraordinary, particularly because we're at a time that one we've never been in before at this scale, at this level, at this rapidity, and at this level of potential threat. And I know that there have been generations before us who've lived through
Yes.
horrors,
Yes.
and they've lived through it, and we will live through it. And maybe there is no playbook for right now, right? And we often talk about having to build the plane while you're flying it. I think there's a bit of that that's going on right now
Of course. Yeah.
on the macro, but the secret might just be in that relational piece, right? Because I can't control, if I lie and look at all the satellites, sometimes I get more distracted by the satellites than I am by the beauty of the stars that are still in space,
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
right?
great metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. I
And
hear you.
so let's look at the stars that are like set in space and focus in on those and what we can do in our relationship to those, that constellation, right? We as a humanity we're simply a constellation.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the work that you're doing to still continue to be present, because I think there is there's a freezing that's happening right now because of the fear.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, people never talk about it's, the that animal brain, that limbic system. It's actually, fight, flight, or freeze.
Hmm.
One of the
Hmm.
and I worry that, with streaming and social media and whatever, that kind of checking out numbing, which is a version of freezing, is easier than ever. And I also, appreciate that those are really deep, those are also deep sort of self-protection responses too. So it's not, you know, it's again, it's also very, very, very complicated. But I appreciate the work you're doing in this moment too. And I hope more people jump into the arena.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it. I'll share it with you as we go along, 100%. Thank you for time today. I know you've got a busy day ahead. And I just wanted to ask you, will there be another book? I mean, you've done the
Oh,
opposite of it.
heavens.
Come
One was
on.
good. One was good. No, I really am enjoying helping other people with their books and projects. That's where I'm at right now,
That's
and
good.
I like it.
Okay. You're going to stay a ghostwriter. Wonderful. Take
Thanks
great,
so much.
wonderful care of yourself, and
Appreciate it.
we'll
Have
be
a
in
great
touch
rest of
again.
your day.
Thank you. You too, love. Bye bye.